Hello and welcome to another edition of Motor Cars Enthusiasts. Right off the bat on today's show, Volkswagen made an interesting statement a couple of days ago. They are talking about ceasing development on internal combustion engines past the year 2026. Meaning there will be no brand new engines coming out from Volkswagen. Not saying that they won't have internal combustion engines past that year, but the development work on brand new engines will cease to exist after that year. Trying to make that march to a full EV company that a lot of manufacturers are claiming they're heading towards. In a similar situation, the folks over at BMW also have a situation on their hands where they're talking about being able to trick, or in their words, force their hybrid technology vehicles into full EV mode for city centers. We've heard a lot of big cities, London, Paris, you're talking about there's going to be a time when they're going to ban the internal combustion engine totally inside of the city center. And BMW claims the technology exists, and they have said technology to actually make this little switch and make these vehicles run on full EV. Now, not for sure exactly how this is going to work, if there's going to be some sort of switch, or chances are it's going to be actually working on for GPS. We'll definitely keep you tuned if we hear more. Next up on the list, well, you may know the little boutique, I guess you could say, little car manufacturer known as Morgan. They built some pretty doggone cool stuff, even though it's kind of that vintage vibe, not only in the styling, but they're even using a lot of wood still in these particular machines, in the development and in the construction of these machines. But there is a rumor floating about it. It has not been made official, but remember maybe 2 or 3 months ago when there was talk that Aston Martin had sold a bunch of tooling for some vintage, not so vintage, mid-2000s Aston Martins? There is a rumor that Morgan is actually the company that bought this particular tooling, because they've also made it announced that they've got a brand new sports car that's going to be coming out very soon. Now, the trick is, how's Morgan going to handle this? They're not going to build an Aston Martin clone, I wouldn't assume. Are they going to put a vintage bodywork over the top of it and just use the underpinnings? This is going to be very, very interesting moving forward. So we'll definitely keep you in tune if we hear something more official on this situation. Next up on the list, well, one that kind of fell through the cracks in the old LA Auto Show is this fantastically gorgeous Audi E-Tron GT. Now, this particular machine is got it where it counts. I mean, this thing really looks good. It wants to go head-to-head with, of course, the Tesla Model S and its new brother in the Porsche Taycan. The vehicle will have a 90 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion electric battery along with twin electric engines breaking out 590 horsepower. They're talking about this vehicle being able to do 0 to 63 estimated in 3.5 seconds with a top speed of 149 miles an hour, which is electronically limited. Now, the vehicle's range is a tad on the soft side. It's only going to be making 248 miles of range, but they're claiming through their charging system this vehicle can gain back 80% or up to 200 miles of range in just 20 minutes time, which makes this vehicle quite viable in the modern day world. Now, the trick is they're talking about this vehicle going into production possibly in 2020, coming out as a 2021 model. So obviously there's a lot of technology that could change in the meantime and make this car even more impressive than it already is. Next up on the list, sticking with the EV train, and yes, your eyes are not deceiving you, this is a vintage Aston Martin on the old plug. This is an interesting situation where Aston Martin is claiming that they are putting together a package for classic vehicles to turn them into electric cars. Now, before you start freaking out about this particular situation, it's a very, very intriguing little concept. What they're using is the basic drivetrain system that was in the Rapide EV, which they're calling a cassette EV setup. What this is the battery, electric engines, the entire drivetrain itself bolts into the car using the existing drivetrain mounts, meaning the engine mounts, transmission mounts, all the way back to the rear end mounts. So this vintage Aston Martin could go right back to the internal combustion engine. You can just basically yank out that engine, bolt in the new electric setup, and run it to your heart's content, and then bolt back in the internal combustion setup if you wanted to get rid of it or something like that. Or you could sell them as the matched pair. This is a situation where apparently a lot of countries are looking into banning classic cars on city roads. Now, the trick is, I'm assuming this will never happen. People love classic cars and vintage cars and love seeing them on the highways, and it's not like they're clogging up the highways as we speak. So I don't think this is going to be a deal that's going to be a big problem moving forward. But Aston Martin's covering their rear end, trying to help out those folks with this situation. Next up on the list, you may remember this particular fantastic looking concept pickup truck from the folks over at Hyundai known as the Santa Cruz. Well, there is a report out there that Hyundai has officially greenlit this car into production. Now, the trick is it going to look like this? I'm hoping it does. It doesn't look like it's going to be a heavy-duty truck taking on the folks at Fiat Chrysler, General Motors, and Ford Motor Company. It looks like somewhat of a car that's going to take on the likes of maybe the Honda Ridgeline, but we'll definitely have to keep you in tune of what we hear heading into the future. And last up on the list, well, if you're a big fan of the Grand Tour, it's been officially announced that it will be making its triumphant return to Amazon Prime streaming service on January 18th of 2019. That'll be the first episode. Don't think they're going to do the whole streaming lot like a lot of other streaming services do. There'll be one a week till the end of the series, so we'll definitely keep you in tune once it gets closer. And that's all there was that I thought was worth talking about for this edition of Motor Cars Enthusiasts. Don't forget to like us over on the Facebook page. The link's down in the show notes. Also, if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, you can do so at any time and get the first dibs on the brand new shows as soon as they come out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again real soon.